In this video, we're going to talk about division. We're actually going to talk about the method called partial quotients. You are familiar with this because you call it the Big Seven. So it's really called partial quotients, but the term Big Seven comes from the way the problem is set up.
So when we're talking about division, there's some vocabulary words that we need to be familiar with. So when we're dividing, the number that we are dividing up is the dividend. Okay, so we're dividing the dividend into equal groups, and our number of equal groups is the divisor. Okay, and the answer when you divide is called the quotient. So when you're dividing, remember you're always thinking about equal groups.
All right, let's practice a problem with the Big Seven method. When you're doing the Big Seven, you're taking little chunks of what you know about the relationship between the numbers. So we have 785 divided by 32. So over to the side, and this is where the Big Seven came from, because you can see a Big Seven. So I'm going to start with some benchmark multiplication. I know that 32 times 10 is 320. It's going to get me close to 785, but I want to get a little bit closer. So I could also do 32 times 20. If 32 times 10 was 320, 32 times 20 would be 640. And I'm really close to that 785. What I'm going to do with this number is I'm now going to subtract it from my dividend. So when I subtract, I have 5 in the ones, 4 in the tens place, and 1 in the hundreds place. I'm not going to be able to do this another 20 times because that will be too much. So I could think back to that 10 that I was thinking about a minute ago. 32 times 10 would be too much. If I take half of 320, which is the times 10, I would be at 160, which is still too much. So I'm going to step down to 32 times 4. When I do this, I know that 4 times 2 is 8 in my ones place. 4 times 3, which is in the tens place, would be 120. So I'm going to subtract that 128 now, which is the partial quotient. I'm going to do my regrouping strategy because I know I cannot take 8 away from 5. So I'm going to go regroup a 10 and give it over to the ones place. 15 ones minus 8 ones would be 7. Then I have 3 tens minus 2 tens, which would be 1, and I have nothing in the hundreds place. Now that my number over here in my dividend is smaller than my divisor, I know that I am finished dividing. If this were bigger than my 32, I would keep going. Now to get my actual quotient, I'm going to add up the numbers that I multiplied by. I have 20 here and 4 here, so my quotient is 24. It's a 2-digit number, so I'm going to put it over the correct spots on top of the dividend. This is my tens place, and this is my ones place. So it went in 24 times, but there's a remainder of 17. Y'all are used to writing that big R and 17, but we're going to practice doing it as a fraction. So your remainder is your numerator, and your divisor is your denominator. And we will have to simplify it sometimes, but this one is already in simplest form.
So we're showing you the partial quotients method for dividing because that's what most of you are familiar with and that's what most of you have been doing in class. However, if you have already been dividing with the traditional algorithm, please continue to do that. You will not go backwards and start using the partial quotients. If you're already feeling good about that traditional algorithm, keep it up because we will be moving to that very soon.